There's a heat wave a-coming. And over in Texas, what happened there? Those floods were horrific. And what does a young lady like Jo do for her birthday?
Hello and welcome to Square Raindrop. I'm Jo Wheeler.
And I'm Steph Galter.
Now, Steffi, not one, not two, but 3 heat waves, and we're only just starting July.
That's right. This is the 3rd one that's approaching, and be prepared to sweat from your eyeballs once more. It's going to be uncomfortably hot, particularly East Wales, the Midlands, and then down towards Somerset.
Okay, does that mean to say I missed it on the East Coast?
No, but unlike the past few, it's not going to be confined to just parts of England and Wales, mostly the southeast. So this one, more parts of Britain and Ireland are going to see it. So even the Western Isles, which is usually shrouded with cloud and rain when the rest of us are baking hot.
Now, it's quite interesting because the last 2 spells of warm weather that we've had have both been down to areas of atmosphere not coming from the south, but instead coming from just off the northeast of the States and somewhere just south of Greenland. And this area has gone round an area of high pressure. It's heated up as it's descended. Now, I can't really remember too many times when that has happened in the past, and we've seen it twice. Is it possible we're going to see the same thing again, or are we looking at these really high temperatures over Europe that's going to feed that air up from the south?
I think the past few heat waves have been a combination. So it's also the fact that you've got air sitting over us for a while, heating, and then you've also had this air kind of sinking, drying, and then coming over Europe and into us. And that's given it the final push to make it super hot. For this one, we've got a high pressure reaching out across us, and much of Europe's going to be pretty hot as well. So it could well be another combination.
Now, heat is fine, humidity isn't. Is this going to be a very humid one?
Yes. Next question. Yeah, no, unfortunately, it's not looking good. So the humidity, you'll probably notice it from Wednesday. It's starting to get hotter and more humid. And then Thursday and Friday, really quite hot. And the problem with the humidity, as well as being generally sticky and you can't sweat as well, which is your body's way of keeping cool, but it doesn't get so cold at night. So the temperatures don't drop away. And your body needs that cooling overnight in order to kind of keep going the next day. So that's when it can get quite dangerous, particularly for vulnerable people. We're looking at the potential of tropical nights in some of the bigger cities like London and Bristol for Thursday night and Friday night. So it is going to be pretty sticky.
And what sort of daytime temperatures?
So we're looking on Thursday, somewhere's likely to get up to 30. And Friday and Saturday, we're looking at 32. And after that, there's sort of a slow erosion as more cloud, rain and more fronts come down from the northwest. So the idea at the moment is it all kind of breaks down by Monday. But of course, Monday is a bit of a long way off for us weather folks. So subject to change.
Absolutely. Now, this is exciting. So I was playing with my band at RAF Coningsby on Saturday night. No, it wasn't. It was Friday night. Friday night.
Now that is exciting.
I know. I was very tempted to have a photo taken by the gate, and 40.3 Celsius, because of course they saw the hottest day ever on the 22nd of June 2022. And so I thought I need a photo by that gate, but they weren't very keen on photos, has to be said. But it was 26 degrees when we were playing, and that was at 6:30 in the evening. So that was very warm, very sticky. But you know, temperatures dropped back until the other day. They were only 18, but the humidity was high and it felt no better than the 26.
Yeah, so when the humidity is really high, see the way your body cools down is you get little, bubbles of sweat. Not us ladies, we just glow, but you get some water on your skin and then that evaporates. Now, the more humidity there is in the air, the less you can evaporate because the air is already saturated with water. So it kind of sits on your skin and doesn't evaporate so fast. So that's why when it's humid, it's more difficult for you to cool down than it is when it's a dry heat. And a more humid heat is always less pleasant.
And I have some life advice here. When it is hot, you should not take a cold shower. In my terms, you should never take a cold shower. It's the most awful thing in the world, and it makes me feel positively homicidal. Yeah, so don't take a cold shower. But there is also a good reason for that, and that's because if you shower yourself in cold water, the skin, which is the biggest organ in the body, thinks that you're cold, and so it tries really hard to warm you up. So the best thing you can do is take a tepid shower rather than a cold one, and that will help to cool you down.
Well, I'll certainly listen to that advice because the last thing I need is my skin saying that I need warming up.
No, I know. That's a really, really bad idea in the heat, isn't it? Now, we've seen some fairly extreme weather around the world. Spare a thought for Texas, who have had some dreadful flooding. And you've been looking into all of this, Steph.
I have. So the reason that the flooding happened is because the remnants of an old Tropical Storm Barry, moved over Texas and kind of lingered around disintegrating there. But that gave the potential of thunderstorms because it gives that bit of extra energy to the atmosphere. But then on top of that, so that gave a lot of low level moisture and that was being fed up from the Gulf of Mexico as well. So always lots of moisture in the atmosphere, fairly low levels. But then higher up, they ended up with some moisture coming in from the Pacific. So you've got the two streams of very, very moist air. And that just exploded one night. And the thunderstorms. Now, you know as well as anyone, Joe, that thunderstorms are really hard for a model to pick up. It's just impossible. It's like if you're boiling, this is always the analogy that's given. If you have a saucepan full of water, you know the bubbles will turn up and you can say, the bubbles will be there. But you could never pinpoint exactly where that bubble of boilingness would appear. And it's the same with thunderstorms in the atmosphere. So you know they're going to appear, you just don't know when. And that's what caused all the problems because it was a mountainous area. The water all went down the rivers and then it was funneled into these little valleys. And it was awful. Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly described it as the most dangerous river valley in the US. And then, in the same breath, he seemed to go on to say, we do not have a warning system on the river.
I was going to say, this is an area that's known for flooding, isn't it?
It is. It's called Flash Flood Alley. So it's not
It's
like they don't
clues in
know.
the name. Clues in the name.
Clues in the name. And it's not that long ago that they had a similar disaster. So on this occasion, 15 inches of rain fell. But in 1987, 11 inches of rain fell and they lost 10 teenagers. So there needs to be more in the way of a warning system. And the trouble it could have been that the warnings were there, but it was nighttime, and that makes it really difficult because you're waking people up in order to tell them things. And if you don't have a warning system, it makes it really difficult. So a flood watch was issued the day before on the Thursday at 1:18 p.m. in the afternoon. So the warning was there saying, there's the potential of thunderstorms and severe weather. But the flood warning went into effect at 1 a.m. on Friday. And then the flash flood emergency, saying essentially you need to get out and you need to get out now, was at 5:30. But who's awake between 1:30 and 5:30? So I think it's likely that the warnings didn't work because people were asleep.
Were these warnings coming through on phones or they were on, their equivalent of the Met Office app, or were they sirens? I mean, what is their alarm system like?
Well, that's just it. I'm not sure. They don't. When Rob Kelly said that we don't have a warning system on the river, I think what he was referring to is they don't have like a flood gauge that goes all the way down. Because I mean, places in the States are massive, so we're talking about a huge area. But there's no flood warning to check the levels all the way down that would have seen this wave coming, this tidal wave coming. Apparently, the way they do it in Colombia is they phone people. So they have people and they just phone them. And they say it's quicker than any kind of alert system. They bypass all the emergency channels. It's literally people saying, get your people out now.
And so are the floodwaters now starting to recede?
It was a fairly quick thing. Flash flood came, hurtled down the mountain. Apparently, there were two thunderstorm areas on the same river that then converged. And it was where they converged, obviously, that the massive devastation happened. But then that carries on down the mountain, hurtling down. And so the flood is there, and then it's not, almost as quick as it arrives. So what's left is a load of debris.
Well, when you talk about 15 inches of rain, of course, it's very hard for us to think about that here. I mean, we had some thunderstorms over the weekend, and very much as you described with your bubbling pot, I could see the clouds building, couldn't guarantee where it was going to happen, but where they did occur, obviously there's instant surface water on the roads. It takes a while to drain off because everything's so rock hard at the moment. And at the same time, over the weekend, I think parts of Scotland saw almost 100 millimetres of rain at elevation accepted. But that's still a lot of water for us. Can you imagine like 5 times that?
Yeah, well, 15 inches, yeah, is 37 centimeters, and we always work in millimeters. So yeah, 375 millimeters in just a few hours. I can't imagine it, to be honest.
Well, obviously, we wish them all the best for their rescue operation and their salvage operation, and hopefully, they clean up and that nothing arrives weather-wise to upset that operation. So we're looking towards this heat wave at the weekend, Steffi. Is it going to be the kind of mini heat wave, mini warm spell, whatever you want to call it, that brings with it sunshine, or is it one of those trapped with cloud?
It's likely to be sunny. I think for the first few days, it's likely to be in many areas cloudy, then that cloud burning away. I think it's only supposed to be Irish Sea coasts where we stay with a little bit of mist and murk for much of the day. Elsewhere, it will be sunny. But when you get really humid air, it often turns more humid because there is that moisture trapped in the atmosphere.
Anyway, the weather stayed nice for my birthday, which it usually does. July the 3rd, usually got sunshine.
And I imagine, as the beautiful young lady that you are, you spent your day in a salon having your nails done or, having your hair coiffured or cream teas perhaps at the Ritz. Tell me, Jo, what did you get up to?
You could have added to that a champagne lunch or something like that. But no, I didn't do any of those things.
Come on then, what did you do?
I went driving a tractor.
A tractor? Like one of those massive... Where? Do you have a farmer friend? How did this work?
I have a farmer friend who had a tractor and he needed some help, so I went to learn to drive a tractor. Negotiated it through some very, very small gaps. In fact, he was very brave and stood in front of me when the tines were very close to him, and that was an inappropriate moment for my foot to slip off the clutch. But it's all right, we all lived. It was fine.
Gosh. Well, he sounds like a very brave farmer. And farmers generally are.